Hi and Assalamualaikum to everyone. I am Nur Atira from University Putra Malaysia, and today I'm here with my friend Isha to present to you a rather interesting topic. So let me tell you a story of a girl named Molly who had Fanconi anemia, a rare inherited disease that would cause a decrease in production of every blood cell in her body. So if Molly's parents were ever to conceive a child, the child would have a high probability in inheriting the disease. So instead of conceiving the child a normal way, they did an in vitro fertilization, IVF, and altered the genes of the embryo to get rid of the genes that might cause the disease Fanconi anemia. The experiment was a success. They have conceived a healthy young boy without Fanconi anemia. The child's name is Adam. So Adam Nash was the first designer baby. The experiment did work. It received a lot of praises, but also a lot of criticism. Meanwhile, Molly was still suffering from Fanconi anemia. So what they did was took the stem cells of the bone marrow from Adam and transfer it to Molly. So they have replaced Molly's bone marrow, which wasn't able to produce enough blood cells in her body, and replaced it with a healthy bone marrow from her brother, Adam. And thus, Adam earned a nickname, Savior Sibling. So today we will discuss this designer baby issue, and whether we should or should not implement this to cure gene-based disease. As for our opinion, designer baby should not be the solution to the outburst of gene-based disease. So this presentation will be divided into 3 parts. First, we will look through the significance of this issue, and we will look through the hurdles of designer babies and how to solve it.
So we have to look at the background information of the first designer baby in the world, which is Adam Nash. So next, move on to the significance of this issue. Don't you wonder why you have to know about design baby? Is it very important? Is it bad or good? So the answer is yes, we have to know about this because we want to spread the awareness to the people that the harmful side effect in effort to cure gene-based disease. How are we gonna say, so I give you the situation so you can understand better. Imagine that one day you will marry with the design baby. You may not know what will happen to your generation over the generations. Maybe for your baby it is safe, it is successful, but for your next generation, your next generation, we don't know, because when we talk about gene, this is very complicated, right? Or maybe you want to design your baby, so you will take the risk also. So the second point is why this issue is very significant is because we want to encourage scientists out there to find a better solution to cure gene-based disease. Encourage them to find another method that can cure gene-based disease with low risk and more natural, or maybe they can improve the gene therapy method so that people out there that suffer with gene-based disease can find the best solution or better solution for them and their generation also. So I think that's all the point that why we have to know about gene-based disease. Then I will pass to Tira to explain deeper about what is designer baby itself.
So Isha have discussed the significance of designer baby. Now let's go through the hurdles of designer baby. Designer baby can go through a lot of challenges in achieving a successful result. First of all, gene is like a series of code. Tamper with one gene, it becomes a whole new different series. One trait doesn't necessarily mean it comes from one gene. For example, our talent, it comes from a mixed determinant, a handful of genes that determines our intelligence, reflex, and other aspects. This also applies to gene-based disease. We simply don't have enough information or research to accurately pinpoint what gene determines a trait. It's like baking without a recipe and straight away baking the cake. And it's just too risky doing it to a living creature. I'll tell you more about this in my last point, but for now let's move on to the second point, which is another challenge in achieving a successful result: inefficient clinical trial. So now let's see just how inefficient they really are. A lot of trials and experiments were done to conceive a designer baby, and a lot of embryos were made. For Adam Nash himself, 33 embryos were used in order to conceive one successful, useful child, and the efficiency was approximately 3%. Just look at how many lives were lost due to this practice. And if we were to look beyond Adam Nash, in a study of collected data from clinical trials all over the world, suggested that out of 1,130 embryos, only 35 designer babies were obtained. Efficiency only 1.15%. This was all due to the lack of technology and information. In a small percentage, sure, some of them succeeded. All went well. No side effects were seen, but long term, they could not determine the actual success of the practice. So we can conclude that we have a very unclear view of what designer baby can cause, and it is really hard to work out. To the next main point: challenges in facing the negative impacts towards the society. Now I want you to imagine a world where designer baby is possible. People will tend to make the perfect baby, babies without diseases, babies without undesirable traits. But what is perfect exactly? Well, in my point of view, perfect is simply not human. Imperfections are the things that makes us a human being. If designer baby is possible, people would think they can make perfection, but they are wrong. Moving on, still in the world where designer baby is possible, people with enough money, people who can afford designer baby, will be the only ones with the perfect beings. And what will happen exactly to the people who cannot afford designer baby? They will be discriminated. There will not be one human race, there will be two separate human races. We have seen issues about discrimination, race, religion, but we have not seen such things caused by designer baby, which will cause something on a whole new level. Now let's get out of this disease topic for a little bit, because I want to share to you something interesting that I've read about earlier. And this thing suggested something very alarming to me. If designer babies are possible, people would envision more than just curing diseases or getting rid of undesirable traits. Control of every inch of our being can be possible. And if we can control our genes, it is not impossible to create a human being as a bioweapon, like a robot we can program into a situation, for example, a war. A very, very scary possibility indeed. So now let's go back to the last point I was trying to tell you about. Now let's get back on track. The second point, which is designer baby can cause defects. This relates directly to the first main point. Altering one gene can mean a whole new different outcome, and this can unintentionally affect other parts of the baby's body. An embryo called BBI2002, obtained from a designer baby clinical trial, ended up being a carrier of a rare genetic disorder called phenylketonuria, or PKU, which means a person having this disorder could not digest breast milk. If BBI2002 would grow up to conceive a child, and the child would consume breast milk, the child would not be able to digest it. This will lead to a buildup of undigested protein, which will cause brain, spinal cord, or nerve impulse problems that would increase the probability of fatal diseases such as heart disease. So we can see that designer baby can go through a lot of hurdles in succeeding, and also it affects negatively towards the society.
This is the last part of this presentation, which is the solution. We suggest to the country to enforce the law against the baby designer, because from my research, from my finding, the design baby happen to that country that have no law about this, and now UK is one of the country. So I see a video from a scientist named Paul Knopfler. He said that their country, which is UK, do not have that law to punish them that implement the design baby, which is this is very important step that the government can do to save our country. Or maybe the scientists out there can find another method that safe and more natural to save the disease. I found that there is already the method which we call as gene therapy. We use CRISPR to edit the gene, but there is some of disadvantage about this method, but actually it's more natural than baby designer. So I think the scientists can find can improve the CRISPR so that this method can be more efficient to cure gene-based disease. So let's summarize what we have looked so far. So the first part of this presentation, which is we have looked at the basic information or the background information about the first designer baby in the world, which is Adam Nash. So the second part of this presentation is the significance of this issue, why people have to know about designer baby, which is there are two reasons. First is to spread awareness to the people and encourage the scientists to find another solution. So, and the third part, which is the main part of this presentation, that we see that is why designer baby should not be the solution to cure gene-based disease. So there are two main points, which is there is more challenges to achieve the successful result because the genes are very complex and inefficient clinical trial. So the second point is because this promote eugenic ideology to the human perfection by gene, which is people will think that gene modification can make their life more better than others. So the last part is the solution, which is the enforcement of the law in the country. The last words from me is, don't let your selfishness destroy others' dreams. Thank you.